demonstration, we want to take a look at the relationship between the air-charged catheters and the water catheters and how they behave within the bladder. The setup that we have here is a Gobi Roam, standard Roam, attached to, of course, our Bluetooth software, and it's giving us two live channels. The top channel is the water, and the bottom one is the air. And as you can see, they're both exactly the same. It's in pre-test mode right now. It's at 9 centimeters. And just show you the setup. The transducer itself is hooked up to its various catheters. The air is running from this side, the left side, into this bag. It's a clear IV bag. And the water transducer, it's all primed, and it's going into a catheter as well on the right side. So with these clamps, we can adjust the height of the catheters. You'll notice that if I start to move the catheter, so the water catheter on the right looks like it's about 5 or 6 centimeters up from the bladder neck. If I lower that, so right now the measurement's around 10-ish. Okay, I'm going to lower it right now. I'm right at the bladder neck. You see it doesn't change. And you can take a look, why don't you zoom in on here, that the catheter is now way down below. In fact, I will change it. I'll push it all the way up. All the way up to the top. And it's still 10. Okay, that's a unique characteristic of water, that the catheter inside the bladder doesn't matter how far in or how far out. Of course, assuming the bladder wall or the bladder neck is not occluding the port, it's always going to measure the same pressure. However, the position of the bladder and the transducer is critically important. If that transducer is not at the right reference level, then as soon as I raise it, say I raise it up this much, take a look at what happens on the computer screen. Now it's at 43. Notice the air is still at 9. It never changed. So the position of the transducer outside the patient relative to symphysis pubis, which is the ICS definition of where that transducer has to be, is critically important. If that's too high or too low, your readings will be too high or too low. But the one benefit of the symphysis pubis is that you can see it better than a bladder. Unlike this situation, we can see the bladder, we can see right through it, so it's a little bit different than a real patient. I will also change the position of the air charge. So now I'm not going to move the bladder height. Okay, and remember it was sitting at 9. I'm going to raise the position of the catheter inside the bladder. So here's the balloon right here at the bladder neck, and I'm pushing it up. I'm not changing the position of the bladder or the position of the transducer. When we go back and we take a look at the readings, now the air charge is showing 0. So as you can see, the amount of catheter we put in the patient is critically important for the kind of baseline pressures we're going to get. It's still responsive, so I squeeze the bladder, I'm still going to get a response. So individuals that are zeroing their catheters to the patient, that is why the shape of the bladder pressure curves are still identical, if not a little cleaner. You notice the air is so much smoother than the water up above. It's still going to be the same shape and same relative difference, and that's where air and water are clearly the same. But where they're different is because of these positional differences, the catheter position being critically important for the air and the transducer position being critical for measurement water. Okay. So that's all we'll do for now. We'll pause this one, and then I'll take a look at how maybe we can start with a good reference pressure.